Morning, everyone. It's our time for the regular sharing session. And before we start it today, I would like to give you a brief introduction of AsiaHRM and also myself. My name is Rita Choi. I'm the founder of AsiaHRM. As most of you may know that AsiaHRM is a HR community for Asia HR professionals to share and exchange ideas. And having a sharing session online is one of the highlights, which we would like to add value to each of us. And today, we are very glad to have our speaker, Mr. Mark Limson, who is the VP and head of the HR group of the Philippine Savings Bank, who is going to share with us the labor code in the Philippines. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to pass the control to Mark. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rita. Thank you for inviting me over. It's been a privilege. I'll be sharing a number of statutory benefits that we have here in the Philippines. Just a disclaimer: this is the minimum requirement set by the government, but most of the companies can offer more. After I share the following slides, I'll also be sharing uh, what the typical benefits that are given here in the Philippines, at least per my experience. So to begin, we start with the hours of work. So just like in almost country, the typical minimum number of hours of work is 8 hours. So anything in excess of 8 hours is considered an overtime. So anything beyond 8 hours, if work will have an additional 25% of the minimum hourly pay. Okay. Next, in terms of minimum wage, so the highest minimum wage that we have in the Philippines is right now is at 537 pesos. That's per day. That's the minimum 8 hours. Uh, just to give a comparison, $1 is equivalent to around 52 pesos. So the minimum wage in the Philippines is roughly around $10 every day. So there we have a minimum wage board here in the Philippines. So the minimum wage plays around in terms of sectors, in terms of geographic locations. So for example, if you're in this region, the minimum wage may be lower than what they receive here in Manila. So they can receive less than $10 per day. And then we also have holiday pay. Uh, I'm not going to be long on this slide. I'll just have to share with you the number of regular holidays that we have here in the Philippines. I think we are quite a bit generous when it comes to holiday pay. So we have at least 12. That's New Year's Day. We have holidays pertaining to the Catholic or Christian religion. That's the Holy Thursday or Maundy Thursday. We also have Good Friday. We have the so-called Araw ng Kagitingan. That's Day of Valor. This day is reserved for our heroes who battled uh, during the time of the Spanish conquest, the time of the U.S. conquest, and the time of the Japanese conquest. We also have the Independence Day, National Heroes Day. We also have lately holidays for our Muslim brothers. We have the Eid al-Fitr. We also have the Eid al-Adha. We also have Bonifacio Day, Christmas Day, and Rizal Day. For those of you who don't know, most of our holidays are pertain to heroes. So what happens is if you go work on a holiday, it doubles the pay at the minimum. So we're talking about around $10 a day if you work on a holiday, then you get at least $20 a day. In terms of leaves, we also have service incentive leave. What happens here is if an employee works for at least a year, is given a service incentive leave of 5 days with pay. So the employee can consume the days of leave, or if it is unused, it's commutable to cash. So at least if the employee doesn't use the leaves, the employee is entitled to at least $50 for the 5 days of service. We also have maternity leaves. Last year, the maternity leave ranges from 60 days to 78 days. Just this year, it has been improved. So the minimum number of maternity leave days is now 105 days. I think it's somewhat aligned to what the other countries in Asia is doing right now. Okay, I will not delve on the details. Anyway, we will be sharing the slides for the maternity leave. Our labor code also subscribes to collective bargaining. So at least in the Philippines, around 60 to 70% of the companies here in the Philippines have collective bargaining agreements. They have trade unions. The Union Federation is quite strong here in the Philippines. In fact, a number of them are being represented in the government through the party list system. So I believe that it's quite healthy. It's not as it's not as aggressive compared to the 70s or the 80s. I believe more of the unions right now, the union federations are already mature, but there have been cases, bits and bits everywhere regarding strikes, but it has improved a lot. Like in the 80s and the 90s, 70s, 80s, 90s, we always hear of strikes, of lockouts. Right now, maybe one or two. That's nationwide, one or two a month, and it's better compared to the previous decades. Finally, we also have, in terms of termination of employment. So here in the Philippines, we have two ways for an employee to be dismissed. Here in the slide, we talk about termination by just cause, meaning if the performance and the behavior of the employee is already in question, the employee can be dismissed, can be terminated. Of course, we also subscribe to authorized causes of termination. For example, company closures, redundancy. If there are retrenchments, so we also subscribe to that. But the Department of Labor and Employment is very strict in checking if these are valid causes of termination. So I think that's the basic of the statutory requirements here in the Philippines. I now turn you over to Rita and to you guys if you have questions so that I can clarify. Thank you.
Okay, so Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so so you just mentioned about termination, right?
Yes.
And there's different courses which will cause a company to terminate the employment of employee. So while we, as an employer, if we use one of these courses to terminate the employment of employees, do we have to serve notice to these employees?
Okay, yes, we do serve notice. Okay, for termination, if the termination is due to just cause, meaning it's the employee's fault, the notice is immediate. Okay. So if the termination is because of authorized cause, meaning if it's because of reorganization, because of redundancy, or closure of the business, the company serves notification of at least 30 days.
Ah.
And the main difference between the two is if you are terminated because the employee is at fault, there are no benefits that are given to the employee except for the final pay. If the termination is due to authorized cause, like I mentioned, in terms of closure, retrenchment, the government requires that the employer or the company gives separation packages.
How does it work with the separation package? What is the calculation?
Okay, for separation package, if it's because of the employer or the company, uh, and if it's because of redundancy, the separation package is at least a month for every year of service.
Oh, a month for every years of service, right?
Yes, and it's tax free.
Okay, okay. Then how about if, say for example, you mentioned that if the employee's performance is up to par, that's why the company has decided to terminate his employment. If that's the case, the employee will get nothing. Will get no compensation from the company, right? Am I correct?
Okay, as long as the termination is effected by the company because of a number of reasons, and the Department of Labor and Employment is justified with the reason, then the employee is due for a separation benefit package.
Hmm. But if the termination is due to the performance of the employee, he or
If the termination is because of the performance of the employee,
yeah.
then the employee gets nothing at all,
Ah,
except for those benefits that are already entitled to him. For example, uh, last pay on the wages, if there are prorated 13th month pay, if there are prorated bonuses, if any, that's given to him. But in terms of benefits, retirement benefits and all, these are all forfeited.
I see. So if that's the case, since the employee will get nothing if the employer considers their service not up to par. In this case, are there any legal requirements saying that the company has to give warning letters to the employee should they find their performance not up to par? Are there any regulations in this area?
Yes, we follow due process. We follow due process.
Ah,
So the due process has at least three requirements. The first one is that there should be a notice to explain to the employee in cases of performance or behavioral violation. It's going to be served to the employee, and then the second requirement is that the employee should always have the right to explain. So the right to explain may be done through a letter of explanation. The right to explain may be through through a Q&A session or a hearing, or the right to explain may be done if there are unions, union representatives who will represent the employee in case the company is unionized. And then afterwards, there should be a notice of decision. So that's the third requirement. So first requirement is notice to explain. The second requirement is an explanation coming from the employee. And the third requisite is that there should be a notice of decision. If the three is not present at all, then the Department of Labor and Employment considers the termination invalid.
oh, I see. Then does the law stipulate the requirements that in terms of informing the employees or giving them the chance for them for improvement? Are there any stipulation on how many warning letters or how many times of attempts that the employer has to give to an employee in order for them to improve?
Okay, mostly, okay, this is not a requisite, this is not a minimum requirement of law, but based on my experience, most of the companies have their own company rules and regulation. They either they have their implementing rules and regulation, or they have their code of conduct. So in terms of code of conduct, at least for the companies where I belong, uh, it's very explicit in terms of progressive discipline. For example, if the problem is on your performance, there's at least progressive discipline. Of course, at the first onset, if you're not performing, the company uh, is not required to terminate you immediately, unless, of course, uh, your performance has caused the company a lot of trouble.
I see, I see. Okay, so then in terms of the monetary benefits, such as social insurance and so forth, can you just give us a brief idea on that?
Okay, so we have three statutory benefits that is covered by the government. We have just like in any other country, I think we have this social security system.
Mm-hmm.
We have the social security system. So minimum benefits, if you have contributed for quite some time, you're entitled to a salary loan. You're entitled to maternity benefits. You're entitled to uh, accident and sickness benefits. And if you have contributed for at least 10 years and you've reached the age of 60, then you're also entitled to a retirement benefit.
Oh, okay. So
Okay,
for, sorry, carry on, sorry.
okay. We also have a provident fund. Provident fund. It's like a savings fund for employees. We call it the uh, Home Development Mutual Fund. So it's popularly known in the Philippines as Pag-ibig. Pag-ibig, by the way, is roughly translated to love. So it's a mutual fund. It's a provident fund where the employees are required to give an amount. Minimum amount is 100 pesos. It's like $2 a month, and it has to be matched by the employer. So every month the employee share is $2, 100 around 100 pesos. The employer share is also roughly around $2. And if you retire, if you reach the retirement age, here in the Philippines, the minimum retirement age is 60. So all the savings that you've deposited in the provident fund is returned back to you. It also has its salary loan and home loan. Finally, we also have uh, a health benefit. We call it the Philippine Health Insurance. So it's also a shared contribution from the employee and the company. And if you have subscribed to a minimum requirement, I think it's 3 months. If you have contributed at least 3 months in the event of your hospitalization or medical procedure, a part of it will be subsidized by the government.
I see. So can I say that this provident fund is same as the retirement fund, right?
About the retirement fund, I think the closer that the government requires is more on the provident fund by the home development and mutual fund. Uh, Most of the retirement fund is actually shouldered by the employer. But in terms of retirement, it has its minimum requirement. For example, the in order for you to have a retirement pay, then you have to serve at least 5 years in service in the company, and you have to have at least uh, 60 years of age. And then, given that scenario, you are the minimum retirement pay that the company can give to you if you reach the minimum requirement of 5 years in service and 60 years of age, is 50% of your base pay multiplied by the number of years of service.
Oh, I see. So for this retirement benefit is solely given by the company, right? For the
Yes,
employee, they don't have to contribute any, right?
they don't have to contribute anything.
Ah, I see, I
Although
see.
there are a number of companies who are already subscribing to define the defined contribution plan.
Ah, I see, I see. Oh, okay. That is good. That is good. I could remember when I was working for one of the companies, uh, which also has its offices in the Philippines. At that time, we did look into the retirement scheme for the office there,
Okay.
and then the local HR manager told us that they don't have any retirement scheme. I think within the organization, but she did indicate this retirement benefit, which is totally paid by the employer, right? That
Yes,
is
that's
mentioned
correct.
about 50% of the basic pay, plus the multiplied by their years of service, provided that they have served the company for 5 years and they reach an age of 60, right?
Yes, that's correct.
I see, I see, I see. Understand. Then how you mentioned, you also mentioned about the leave pay, right?
Yes.
Then you mentioned about this US dollar 10. So are you saying that for all the leave pay, they will be calculated based on the minimum wage, or would they be calculated based on the actual pay per hour or per day?
They are calculated based on their actual pay.
Ah, okay, okay. So how about, would there be any overtime hours control in the Philippines? Because in your presentation, you mentioned about after 8 hours a day, all the remaining hours will be counted as the overtime, right? And
Okay.
they'll get paid. But would there be any control on the overtime hours?
Actually, in terms of control, of course, when you talk about occupational health and safety, every worker should at most work for 12 hours, because we, as we all know, any working beyond 12 hours uh, is already not beneficial both on the company and the employee, because of course employees are not robots.
Mhm.
uh, but uh, the labor code is silent on that manner, but considering that every employee is entitled to one hour of lunch break, then the most overtime hours that the employee can get for a single day is 15. So 8 regular hours, uh, 1 hour lunch break, and then 15 hours maximum overtime
Ah, so 15 hours is the maximum overtime hours that they can work for an organization, right?
for a day. Yes.
For a day. Okay, okay, okay. Uh-huh, uh-huh. Then what will be the from the HR perspective, what will be the biggest challenge in terms of facilitating all these kind of benefits to our employees?
Come again. I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Okay, what is the biggest challenge from the HR perspective when we adopt this kind of benefits to our employees in the Philippines?
Well, uh, these are all minimum requirements.
Uh-huh.
These are all minimum requirements. There are a lot of companies, my bank included, where we provide more than what the minimum requirement is. I think the challenge right now for employers here in the Philippines is that there's there's uh, there's a war on talent. There's a war on talent, and if they don't improve their benefits, then they can't get the talent that they want to have. So, for example, just to give you an example, in the banking industry, uh, the leaves, the company leaves is way more than the minimum requirement. Uh, at
Ah,
least in terms of vacation leaves, banks provide 15 days every year.
mm,
Uh, they also provide 15 days of sick leaves every year. So that's 25 days more than the minimum requirement set by the government in terms of retirement pay. Uh, most of the companies, for example, in the banking industries, already provides 100% of your base pay if you serve the company for at least 10 years.
I see.
But of course, it's taxable. It's subject to tax. But at least if you work for 10 years or more, you can get the more than what the government is requiring. Government is requiring around 50% of your base pay. Most companies provide a month's pay for every year of service. So if, for example, here in the banking industry, the attrition rate is around 10%. Is around 10%. If you don't improve your benefits, then most of your employees will transfer to another bank who can offer more. So really, I think the challenge is more on the war of talent, not on the benefits.
I see. Then do most of the companies in the Philippines work on a 5-hour basis, 5-day basis?
Yes, minimum requirement is 40 hours, 40 hours a week.
Okay. So earlier you mentioned about the traffic situation in your country. So are most of the companies adopt sort of flexi hours for the employees in order to keep the talent and also can cope with the actual situation in the country?
I think in terms of the BPO industry, they are already adopting flexible working arrangements. They are already adopting work at home arrangements. But I think it only comprises around maybe at most 20% of the industry. The challenge here in the Philippines is that most of the industries are not automated. So, for example, we talk at the banking sector. Most of the services are not yet automated. Uh, if it's automated, the clientele, the customers are not yet embracing the the automation. For example, here at the bank, we already have, we can process services based via web. We can process services via mobile application, but sad to say, a number of our clients are still subscribing to going to the bank, having face-to-face discussions with, interactions with our branch employees. They're still not confident in transacting via the mobile devices or anything. So we are still we want to have it automated, but the challenge is, I think, our customers or clients are, I think, not yet ready for that aspect. So it's a question of chicken and egg. Even if there's automation, if the customers are not yet willing to use automation, then we have uh, we have we have to serve them based on what they want to where they want to be served.
I see. Okay, so besides this labor code, do do the Philippines government adopt any other employment-related laws, such as equal opportunities, or data privacy, or discrimination act, and so forth?
Yes, we do. We do have the our Data Privacy Act is in full effect. We also have policy on sexual harassment. We also have policies on Safe Spaces Act. The Congress is uh, proposing policies on flexible working arrangements. They're proposing policies on security of tenure. I think in terms of policies and regulations, I think we have what is needed. The challenge right now is more on the implementation.
Okay. So I don't have any questions. So any questions from Marie? I know I have mute you. Do you have any questions, Marie?
No.
Sorry,
Hello.
no,
Hi,
okay.
Marie. Hi, Marie.
Hello, hi.
So Marie, are you from the
Hi.
Philippines?
Yes.
Ah,
Hi,
okay.
Marie. From what industry?
Hotel.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So what is the staff turnover rate in the hotel industry as a whole? Marie, do you know?
Hello. Yes.
Can you hear me? What is
Actually,
the, yeah, sorry.
hello. Yes, I can
So,
hear you.
okay. So what is the overall staff turnover rate in the hotel industry?
Actually, I've only been working in the HR industry in hotel for like
Okay.
back in the Philippines for like 2 to 3 years, and then I practice here more in Cambodia.
Ah,
So
okay.
I can
Okay.
answer for for Cambodia than in the Philippines. That's why
That's
that's why I
interesting.
wanted to know more about Philippine
But are you from,
labor
okay.
law.
I see,
Ah,
I
okay.
see.
Okay. So,
Yeah, because I've been practicing Cambodian labor law for 11 years. So
wow.
I've been here for 11 years. And though I know quite a few like labor law in the Philippines, but I think now there been a lot of changes, right? And um it you're correct. Sometimes it depends on industry to industry because um like for example, I just knew now that the leave in the Philippines is only 5 days.
Well, at
But
least
when I was at least 5 days, right? But it differs from different industry to under industry. It depends from the generosity of the employer. Because in here in Cambodia, you will be surprised. We have 18 days annual leave here.
wow.
Okay. So this is the
Yes.
That's very,
mandatory
very
one,
good.
right? Mandatory one.
Yeah, that is the mandatory annual leave. It's 18 days,
Wow,
so
that is good.
1.5 days per month.
That's very good.
That's quite good.
Yeah, quite generous.
Yes,
Ah, I see. I think it's
actually,
the,
even the holidays here this year we have 28.
Wow. And I think the 12 days holiday in the Philippines is already a lot.
Yeah, yes.
yeah,
But in here, that's
I see. In Hong Kong, the statutory holidays is 11 days, but we do have
mm,
bank holidays. Bank holidays,
mm,
17 days, which include the 11 days of statutory holidays. So it depends
mm,
on the company. If the company adopts the bank
mm,
holidays, then employees can enjoy 17 days. But if company
mm,
just adopts the statutory one, then the employee can only enjoy 11 days.
Mhm.
So
mm.
it all depends on the company, but the government is not so generous in giving 20 something days, right? Like in
Yeah.
Cambodia.
In Cambodia, the government is quite generous in terms of mandatory leaves, paid and paid holidays.
Wow, wow.
Wow. I think
Maybe we'll try to visit Cambodia one of these days.
Yes, please.
yeah, that's right. I think they will also be generous in other type of benefits as well, right? Besides leave,
Yes,
right?
actually, in here, currently now they just passed the law about seniority pay. So every year, each employee will receive 15 days extra pay.
Oh,
Wow.
okay. Wow, wow. That's the
Wow.
reason why you are staying more in Cambodia.
Yeah, I get to get a lot of holidays and public holidays.
Wow. Okay. Okay. That's interesting. But we are having a session
Mm.
on the Cambodian
Cambodian labor
labor
law,
law.
yes,
Yeah, I look forward to that
with
as well.
Mr. Chantri.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe by then we will know that among all the countries, the Cambodian government is the most generous
Yes,
in terms
yes,
of giving
Cambodian
benefits
government.
to their employees. Okay. So Marie, do you
Yes.
have other questions for Mark?
Um, Actually, I'm quite clear now. Only because in the labor, I'm I learned a lot from watching. How to say? There's one how to call TV radio in the Philippines, Rapi Tulpo.
Ah,
So
okay.
I
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Just
keep.
okay, Rita. Just to give you a brief overview.
Okay.
The one being mentioned by Marie. This is a service program through radio and TV
Okay.
where most of the labor concerns coming from the employees is being addressed here. For example, if the employer or the company is not paying as much, is not giving the minimum statutory requirements of the government, most of the employees who have no voice in airing their concern, they air their concerns through the help of this guy, Rafi Tulfo.
Oh, okay. So the guy has this radio session every week,
Every day, every day.
every day. So when
And he
is
calls
it?
the employer. He calls the employers, tells them that they are not paying what is due to the employees, and if they uh, don't provide the necessary benefits, they help the employees in securing uh, cases against the employer.
Oh, so the guy is a lawyer.
He's more of a journalist. He's more of a journalist, but I think he reads well, and he knows a lot when it comes to the labor code of the Philippines.
Oh, so he's helping those who are sort of the suffered, so the victims,
Yes,
to fight for their benefits, right?
yes,
Oh, that's interesting. And I believe this is a quite popular radio session in the
it, it,
Philippines.
it
Yeah?
is. It is.
So
It is.
workers from all walks of life, right? Will
Yes.
listen to this radio. Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay. Oh,
From
and I
different industries.
from different industries, and I believe
Yeah.
that okay, a lot of people know it. Okay, so it's interesting to listen to this kind of session, right? So that the people will know that, oh, this is my benefit, and I should fight for it, right?
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, okay. So, if no other question from Marie, we will end the session today. And as I mentioned earlier, we are recording it, and we are going to show it to the members in one of the watch party. Okay. So thanks, Mark,
Okay.
again for sharing this wonderful slides with us, so that we have a better idea on what the labor code in the Philippines is like. Okay, thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Rita.
And I wish
Pleasure.
everybody, a nice weekend. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank
You're
you. Bye
welcome.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Matt.